My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be ranking my eyeshadow palettes. I know that this is a style of video that's been making the rounds, and it's a style of video that I really enjoy watching. I first came across ranking videos watching Samantha March's channel, but I don't think she came up with the idea herself. I think she got it from someone else who might have gotten it from someone else. I'm not sure what the origins are, but I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. In any case, I think it's a great idea for a video, and I'm very grateful to someone for coming up with it. These are all of my eyeshadow palettes right here. This is the stack of palettes that made it through my recent brutal eyeshadow palette declutter, and then this is the stack of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that have joined my collection via the Purgatory box since then. So I believe there are 8 here and 5 here for a total of 13. I have not ranked them in my mind before sitting down to film. I'm going to be doing it on camera. I'm going to be doing it before your very eyes. So let's go ahead and spread all of these out and get into the meat of the video. Okay, I zoomed you all the way out so that all of the palettes could be in frame at the same time. I've never filmed an overhead video with such a zoomed out shot, so I hope that the lighting will be okay. I hope that everything will be okay. But it's really just about the process of ranking them, and I'm sure that we're getting enough footage, or good enough footage, to be able to do that. Gosh, I feel a little bit daunted at the idea of narrating the entire thought process as I go through it. I think what I might do is some preliminary rearranging, and I'll do that silently and speed up the footage, and then partway through I'll check in with you guys about what I'm thinking so far and like why I'm thinking it, etc., etc. Okay, so let's do a little check-in. I've grouped some palettes down here at the bottom that I feel like are gonna be towards the end for various reasons. These two, just because they're kind of one-trick pony palettes. This is the Kaleidos Sci-Fi Green palette, which I love. I mean, I could not love it more on its own merits. And I should say, I should have said this at the beginning, when I don't really love a palette, I don't keep it. So I've had plenty of beautiful eyeshadow palettes in my possession from time to time, and then I've decluttered them. So none of these palettes are disappointments to me. None of them are palettes that I don't love. So even the ones at the end, at the very bottom, are going to be palettes that I love enough to keep in my collection. So best to worst is a little bit of an extreme way of talking about what this ranking system is. I think that the thing that I am doing is I'm ranking them in the order that I would want to keep them. So if someone came to me and said, I'm going to take away all of your eyeshadow palettes except for one, which one do you want to keep? Then I would keep the Natasha Denona Gold palette. And if that person said, okay, now I'm going to take away all but 2, which 2 do you want to keep? I would keep the Natasha Gold and the Natasha Lila, the Natasha Denona Lila. So that's the order that we're going in. So these palettes, even though I really love them and they bring me a lot of joy, and on some days I would rather reach for this than this, and on some days I would rather reach for this than this. That's true, so that's not the criteria. By the criteria that I am using, these ones would be towards the end because they just provide less diversity and less excitement in terms of texture than these ones do, than many of the other ones do. So I've grouped some towards the end that I know are going to be at the end for one reason or another, and then I've grouped some at the top and at the beginning that I know are going to be at the beginning. So I'm pretty sure that these are my top 2. And then if I could only keep a third one. Gosh, right now I'm so in love with this palette, and I would be really sorry to see it go in this abstract situation that I'm making myself imagine. But to be totally honest, I think that if I were truly in that situation and someone were about to take all of my eyeshadow palettes but 3, I think I would probably have my third keep be the Natasha Denona Star palette. It's missing a shadow right now because it's in a little collection of singles that I have edited. I think if you had asked me this morning if I thought that when I sat down to film this video, the Star palette would make it into my top 3, I probably would have said no, because I just haven't been reaching for it very much. And I've definitely been reaching for the Identity 2 much more frequently. And there are looks that I could make with either of these palettes that I would much rather make with the Identity 2 formula-wise. So for example, these reds, if I was going to make a look with these reds, I would much rather use Empowered and Passionate from the Identity 2 than these two reds, because I think it might just be age, but these ones have become extremely powdery and kind of separated on the eyes. It's tough to make a good rich red eye look with this palette. But I just cherish the shape and the size and the finish, the packaging. There are some of these shadows that I still really love and lean on and pop out from time to time. It's obviously gotten a lot of wear, and there's sentimental value attached to it. It was sent to me by a subscriber. It was sent during my no-buy year. It was incredibly meaningful when it arrived. And I think that when you're talking about which objects you would choose to keep if they were being taken away, sentimental value stands for a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my number 3 spot. I think that if someone said that I could only keep 3 of my eyeshadow palettes, I would probably keep these 3 Natasha Denona palettes, and I would feel good about that. There's a lot you can do with them. Even with these being limited edition, I think that the Identity 2 is making it into 4th place. I just find this palette to be so delicious and incredibly useful. And I've got to say, it is newer to me, right? I've had it for a good, maybe at least a month at this point. So it's not brand new and it's not like the first flush of love between this palette and me. But it is newer to me, so it does still have some of that excitement. That's fine with me. We're capturing my feelings about my palettes at this moment in time. But when I think about reaching into this palette, I get so excited by the all-over lid look that I could create with any of these metallics. And then I find this smattering of mattes very useful for all of the things I use mattes for. So deepening up the outer corner and the crease, buffing things out into my brows, and then this ruddy red one for getting like a flushed look to the eye. I just think it's perfect. And the Nudepop palette, on the other hand, it makes me feel better feelings when I look at it. Like, I love the layout, I love the packaging, I love the packaging, and I love the surface of the shades. I just love everything about it as an object more than this one. But it doesn't provide as much diversity for me when it comes to eyeshadow looks, because I don't really use these incredibly pale mattes. This one, that one, this one, and that one I almost never reach into. I don't find this to be the most reliable dark purple, so I tend to just reach into this for its special shades. I don't see as much promise in this eyeshadow palette when it comes to looks. And actually, I see more promise in this one, because whenever I reach into this palette, I get these amazing, like, creamy, weird, creasy, greasy, reddish, purplish, bluish looks, and sometimes like peachy. It's just very strange and special. This is a limited edition Lancome collab palette, and half of these are potted cream eyeshadows that I really, really love. So this eyeshadow palette, I think is going to be next, and then the Nudepop. Let's see, let's keep going with these and see how that feels. When I first got the Daydream palette, and I'm sorry it's missing 2 shades, I actually am not totally sure where they are. I think they're in a little magnetic palette in one of my purses, and I don't really want to go dig through and try to find them right now. But these 2 shades, while very beautiful, don't necessarily provide like a ton of tonal diversity to the palette. It's just more of the same. Very beautiful, but more of the same. When I first received this palette, I was blown away by the variety of the textures and the quality of the blend that I was getting with the mattes. And this is definitely equal in terms of quality. It has the same texture diversity, although it doesn't have glitters. And then the matte formula, there are two matte formulas in this. One's a little creamier and one's a little bit more like the one that's in here. Both of them are great. Both of them perform really well and blend really well. And I think maybe I just wasn't as blown away because I had high expectations because of this palette. And with this palette, I had low expectations, so it blew me out of the water. With this palette, I had expectations equal to this one, and it just met my expectations. So I think that maybe there was a lot to do with like what I was expecting and what I was thinking that caused me to just be like, oh, great, it's perfect when I got this one. Whereas when I got this one, I was like, oh my goodness, I like lost my mind. Objectively though, looking at them, this is the color story that I prefer. I absolutely love this like warm, rusty, deserty colors and then these cool tones at the bottom. So I'm having kind of a hard time figuring out which one of these palettes I would keep if someone were taking all of my palettes away. And you know what? In a move that's going to shock me as much as anyone, I think that I'm going to go ahead and put the Sahara first. It's partly because it's a little bit newer, so I've been feeling like more attracted to it lately, but I think that it's actually in large part because the color story is more to my taste. It provides more diversity for me than this one does. The thing that this palette really has going for it is the glitters. I really, really love those pressed glitters, and gosh, I really love this palette. I don't know, this is a near tie. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Sahara here and the Daydream here, and then I'll think about it at the end. Also, sort of to my surprise, both of them are going to rank above the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. And some of you asked me when I received this one in PR, you were like, don't you already have the dupe palette for that? And I don't. The Daydream palette is a dupe for the Huda Beauty New Nudes palette, and this is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. So they're two different palettes. But this, I mean, I love the colors, but the shadows just haven't really impressed me very much. Every time I've used it, it's either just been as expected, the performance, or it's been a little bit subpar, especially the shimmers, the duochromes. I do appreciate the glitter, the texture diversity in the glitter. It just doesn't, this just has not blown me away like I expected it to. I really love the colors looking at it, but nothing about the formula has like gripped me and ripped my heart out. So it's ranking above these guys because I don't consider it to be a utilitarian palette, which is what all of these are pretty much. But it's definitely ranking below these because these both feel like best friends to me. And this just feels like, it feels like an acquaintance that I'd like to get to know better, but I'm like not sure she likes me. Okay, so these four palettes down here at the bottom are all utilitarian in one way or another, and for that reason they don't make my heart beat as fast as the other palettes, and that's why they're ranking here at the end. It's not that I don't love them. I do find all of them incredibly useful. I just don't love them with as much passion as I love kind of my more exciting curated palettes. So these two are utilitarian because they're so portable, because it's so easy to figure out which kind of look you're gonna do. Also, there's a good balance of shimmers to mattes. It's just very one and done with both of these. Not that you can't get more than one look out of each of these palettes, because you absolutely can. There's relative diversity among each of these two palettes, but it's not the kind of editorial spread of all of these palettes up here. So that's why they're more utilitarian to me. And then these two are utilitarian for kind of more normal reasons, right? This one is just all your basic mattes. But I don't really love matte eyeshadows. Mattes aren't my favorites. I really love shimmer and texture and glitter and duochrome pigment and extraordinary multi-sheeny formulas. And this palette has none of that. It's just the go-to mattes. It's like any matte that I would ever need to kind of build support into a look. It's a true support palette. So I appreciate that it's luxury. I mean, I appreciate that it's Viseart, but I think that the honest truth is that I haven't, even though it's here and I'm like, oh, I've always got that Viseart palette if I need a black or if I need a gray. Even though that's true, I don't end up reaching for it that often for those, and I haven't reached for it enough to have really been awed by the formula. I still feel like this palette and I haven't gotten to know each other that well, and it also doesn't have anything gripping to offer me. So I'm glad that I have it and I do use it. I do lean on it from time to time. I actually really love this, of all things. I really love this colorful matte here in the second row. But this is definitely going to be the last. Like if someone came to me and they were like, we're going to take away one of your eyeshadow palettes, you can't keep one of them, I would probably give them this one. And then I think this, I think I would let that mean palette stealing person have both of these before I would let them have my electric palette, because I love these brights, and when I use them and when I need them, I really, really love this palette. It doesn't excite me the way that it used to, and it doesn't excite me the way that these ones do, because it's just an accent palette for me. It's very much just a home for all of these fluorescents. It's the one that keeps me from ever buying a fluorescent rainbow palette, because I know that I always have these and they perform so well. So it's utilitarian, but to me it's more unique and also in a way more exciting actually than either of these two. And of these two, I'm gonna go ahead and say, gosh, I love this palette so much that it's weird to put it second to last. But I think that, especially right now, I'm really into these goldy greens. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that in my mean palette stealing person world, I would give them this one first, then I would give them this one, then I would give them this one, and I would really, really hope that that would be enough and that they wouldn't go taking any more of my palettes. But let's go through from last to first, which is what people tend to do in these videos, and I'll just briefly talk on each one and see if I want to rearrange anything. So the first one I would give away if I were being forced to do that would be this one, for all of the aforementioned reasons. It's just pure utility, and the formula, while fine, hasn't really leapt out of the pans and impressed me yet. Then I would give them this one, stunningly beautiful, great formula, gorgeous color balance. I absolutely love this little palette. It's just such a one-trick pony for me that it would be the next one on the shopping block. And then the same goes for this one, a slightly more exciting color story than this one for me at this moment in time, but still somewhat of a one-trick pony. Then this one, a beloved palette in my collection, but definitely one that just provides utility in terms of these bright colors rather than being one that I kind of love for its curation. So those would be the first four to go. You know what though? If I'm being truly honest about this scenario, this has failed to impress me in the time that I've owned it, to the point where I think I'd give it away before I would give the electric palette away. I think this is actually going to be my fourth one. Maybe I haven't given it enough of a chance, but I've kind of gotten the impression that the mattes are just a little bit dusty, and I definitely don't get the payoff from these duochromes that I wish I got. I think I need to give it more time. This isn't my final verdict on this palette, but if this scenario were befalling me today, it would go before the electric palette. I use these two palettes so much more on a daily basis than I use this one that I think I would hang on to them and let go of this accent palette. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I would give away the Daydream and then I would give away the Sahara. And it's really these like orangey, mustardy, and these like salmon mattes. There's just something about that that's really floating my boat these days. And this is one of the best bronzes I've ever used. It's so neutral. It's really like a cool to neutral bronze rather than being a copper, which most bronzes are. So many bronzes lean copper. And this one to me rings really true bronze, and I love that. Yeah, I'm really loving this. This surprised me. I was sure that I would rank the Daydream above the Sahara, but I'm actually ranking the Sahara above the Daydream. But I do feel confident that I would let these guys go before I would let go of the Nudepop or this limited edition Lancome palette. These are just such beautifully curated, precious objects to me. I love both of the layouts. I love the special shades. I think I really do love these kind of dusky, plummy purples. That's a really good kind of grungy color look for me. So these two, they do share many qualities in common, but I get really different looks when I reach into the two of these. I feel like we're starting to advance into my very, very special palette world. So like, it's almost like there's a division here, which maybe there is numerically. So yeah, these are my top 6. And I feel like between the top 6 and the rest of them, there's kind of a dividing line. Like these top 6 are like my ride or die little group. And if someone took away all of these, but I had these top 6, I think I would probably be fine. I mean, I'm sure I would be fine. Let's be honest, I'd be fine. You know what I'm saying. All right, top row. The Identity 2 has scored very high in spite of being relatively new to me, in spite of being, I don't know, like a little bit vanilla. Like when you look at it, it just looks so much like it's checking all the boxes. There's not much that's like a surprise about it, but it is so useful for those sort of dusky, grungy looks. Similar to the dusky, grungy purple look I was talking about with these two, it's as though it provides not only that, but a dusky, grungy version of every color. I really, really love this palette. So yeah, I'm happy with that at spot number 4. And then we have 3, 2, and 1. Oh, the gold palette is missing a bunch of shades as well. They're mixed in among my singles, but you guys know what the gold palette looks like. So the Star palette, the Lila palette, and the gold palette. I'm just a sucker for Natasha Denona's way of curating color stories. And I also love the way that the palettes look. I like the layouts. I like the shape of the pans. I like the size and depth of the pans, the textures, the colors. I really love these as objects and not just as tools, and that is part of why they're in the top there. But I also really love them as tools. I end up reaching into these eyeshadows a lot. I'm constantly taking them out of their pans and putting them in with my singles, traveling with them, etc., etc. These are just 3 totally dreamy palettes. And you guys know that gift giving is my love language. This was a gift from a subscriber. This was a gift from my friend Lauren after she decluttered it. And this was a Christmas gift from my sister. And these 3 palettes definitely hold extra weight and glamour for me because of the fact that they were special gifts. So that is it. Those are all of my eyeshadow palettes ranked in the order that I would choose to keep them if somebody were coming and stealing them all one by one. This was really fun and interesting and surprising for me. It didn't all shake down exactly how I thought it would, and I love that. I love finding out more about how I feel about the beautiful things that I own. It helps me to keep perspective, it helps me to stay focused, and it helps me to know myself better when it comes to deciding what to buy in the future, and also hopefully deciding against buying a lot of the things that tempt me. I hope that this was also fun and interesting for you to watch. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.